Good evening, folks. Welcome to Cryptic Crunch. I am your host, Willow Schuyler. Um, we're just waiting for our special guest to show up. So in the meantime, I guess it's an Ask Me Anything kind of evening. Keel will be with me shortly. So yeah, let's get the party started. All right, so Kale, what's up?
Hello.
I love the mask.
Thank you.
Now,
dress very.
Sorry, go ahead.
I decided
Explain
to dress
your
very
outfit.
Wendigo cryptid-like tonight.
Is that from Spirit Halloween, or did you pick it up from somewhere else?
I think I grabbed this from some random costume shop somewhere along the line. I have an entire trunk of cosplay, masks, wigs, all you name it, everything. So yeah.
Looks pretty cool. And I see Casper's behind you, looking all cute and cuddly.
Yep, he always has to make an appearance.
And I see shadows of another cat as well.
That is his sister Meep. She's always hiding, but she's hanging out tonight.
Cute. All right, so we're still waiting on our special guest, but I mean, hey, we got people in our chat. At least they show up. We have Carl Winsman. Hello, Dan Hollyfield. Who seems to be a little under the weather. I'm so sorry, Dan. I hope you feel better. And I know I saw Donna around here. Hey, Donna. Donna, Carly, Carlene. So yeah, if you guys have any questions for us, please feel free to ask them. We'll do our best to answer them within reason. No. Carl asked, do your cats freak out if you wear a mask? Oddly enough, my cats know. I think we both have the same thing with our cats, where they've seen us in so many different outfits and makeup that it's like a normal Tuesday.
Yep. For them. It's just like, oh, there she goes. Why is she a giant pickle again? What is she doing now?
Usually if it's a dress, it's like, how can I get on that?
Yep. Especially when the majority of my wardrobe is black and I have a white cat.
Yeah. I'll be one of my outfits has it's a huge, poofy skirt, and there's been times where I'll be like trying to do something in the kitchen by fixing something on it or adding something to it, and I'll try to move, and the cats are either on the dress or in the skirt itself.
Yeah, trust me, it can be quite interesting sometimes.
Yeah. We have a Twitch, someone from Twitch watching. Hey, I hope the commercials aren't annoying you too much. Thank you for being here. Yeah, I tried watching something on Twitch a couple of nights ago, and this is how far away that I've been from watching things on Twitch, where it's like, what did they have commercials?
Right. Yeah, they changed so
much
on their apps. Every time I get on TikTok, it's something new, and I'm like, where have I been? How old am I? What year is it?
Uh, oh yeah, Carl goes, I keep my dress suit in the car and change in the gas station washroom. I have yet to experience that situation, but I've dressed at conventions on my way there. Several of my friends will dress in the parking lot of the convention center.
You have to, because if you have a costume that has, like, especially face paint or stuff, you can't be driving and get that stuff smearing all day. Or if you're coming from hours away, just show up like as a melty green goblin.
Or you could be like me and befriend one of the body painters and just slam down like $50 and go, paint me.
Paint me.
Yeah, just to keep the cat hair off. Yeah, that's exactly it. That if I buy an outfit specifically to show my husband, and it's kind of like a date night kind of outfit, it's like I will try to keep it in my closet as much as I can, away from the cats. But yeah, it's the moment I take it out, it's, you know, the cats are all like, oh, okay, new outfit.
Yeah. No, sponsor me IKEA, because I love your 79-cent lint rollers. Every time I go there, I buy like $20 worth of lint rollers. Just keep them in the cupboard under the sink, because like I have 5 cats, so I have to have lint rollers on hand.
Yeah,
yeah. So I have I have one in my glove compartment, have like one in my bathroom, like, you know, one as I go out the door, everywhere.
Yeah. Dave Chapman's in the chat. Hey, guy, I haven't talked to you in a long time. He goes, I do that a lot at a lot of events. I don't even cosplay. You're a photographer, though, so I can see you getting all your equipment ready and needing to. And plus, you know, you have a game store, so you know all your equipment you need to bring out from your car. That takes a lot of work, and you know what, I can't imagine having to keep all your equipment, you know, dust free and fur free. Yeah. For being a photographer. Like, I'm a bad photographer. This is me. Like, I literally have my camera just sitting out in the open.
The thing about photography is like, if you have a really nice lens, like, you always have to have a lens cloth on hand and keep your lens cap on, because like one speck of dust or like anything is going to get you out of focus and like totally ruin you, and you're like, why?
Yeah.
Oh, every photographer listening knows exactly what I'm talking about. They know the frustration of that speck. The speck has got to go.
Even our cell phones, like, there's times where it's like I'll be trying to take a selfie from somewhere, and like the sun will shine on it, and it's like, where did that come from?
Right.
Oh, yep, I'm always changing lenses. I have some dust inside my best lens. I
have lost some great lenses to sand at the beach.
Oh yeah. Actually, I think that's how I ended up getting a scratch on my phone, like my first iPhone, was because it was a really windy day, and you know, sand and dust, and yeah, that really sucks. And then, of course, not having proper things to wipe your phone with. I'm constantly using like the back of my shirt, or again, this is why I shouldn't have. Here's my glasses out of its case. Prime example. I should not. I am not responsible enough for technology.
It's okay. I broke the nose piece off my glasses, so I've literally been relying on my contacts majority of the time until I can get them fixed. I have a crooked nose apparently or something, because this is the second pair that I've broken literally the right the nose piece off, and I'm just like, wow, okay, this is how it happens.
Well, okay, so not a sponsor yet, but hopefully one day. Zenny Optical, if you can sponsor me, I need a new pair of glasses.
Zenny Optical is legit. They have a pair of glow-in-the-dark bat glasses that I want to order so bad right now.
I haven't been on their website in a long time.
Yes.
But it's better than spending like $200 on a pair of lenses that you're gonna wear for maybe a couple months, and then you're okay. For a minute there, I'm like, there's a door that just opened behind Kale. I hope something comes in through that door. Sorry, ADD. This is, after all, a cryptid podcast, so I'm just making sure that
I wish that we caught it on camera. It's sadly just my roommate getting ready to go, but I wish we had a ghost. I mean, we do, but we didn't catch it on camera yet.
I was ready to call the Ghostbusters on that one. Dave Chapman says, desperately need new glasses for quad ball, formerly Quidditch. Okay, I would be probably one of the many people that would break their glasses on the first day of doing that sport.
Yes. I'm not coordinated at all. I would get smacked in the face immediately.
Yep. And I'm not only am I uncoordinated, I'm like I try to play basketball. I played basketball, but I am very bad at playing baseball. I can't throw worth crap. My my sister was trying to teach me to throw, and I just kept throwing beside her. And she goes, yeah, that's not your sport. Obviously.
Yeah, I realized that I wasn't a good thrower when I could dodge all the balls, but not get anybody out. Yep. I could just catch balls to get out. I couldn't throw it. I could just get
Yeah, I was often the last one picked.
I've been there once or twice. Not even because I wasn't liked, just because people suck.
Yeah. Although it was funny because when I did play a couple of games of soccer, I managed to get a pretty good couple goals, and all the guys were like, when did you become a good player? It's like, I've always been a good player when it came to soccer. I'm not afraid of the ball.
Right. So here's an interesting question, because about the fourth grade in American school systems, at least in Indiana, there's this stint where they teach you to square dance in gym class.
Yeah.
Do they do that in Canada or anything?
I don't know if they still do.
This ridicule the do-si nose and swinging your partner to and fro.
I don't. That was the weird thing about living out in. Growing up in foster care, I had to move in with my grandparents, and it was a little hick town that I lived in. And yeah, that was part of the curriculum, was to learn how to line dance. And I loved it, but at the same time, I hated it because I'm not a coordinated person at all. But somehow my team ended up winning second place.
Oh my god!
in the line dancing competition. Don't ask how we did it. Maybe that's why we didn't win first, but I'm just like, how bad was the other teams.
Yeah, to this day, I'm just like, I've never even been to a country bar. I've never been to a bar where there's line dancing involved. The most I've ever done is like the cha-cha slide or the Casper slide that, you know, people get in a line to do together. I'm just like, what was this for? Social interaction.
Line dancing is more common in Alberta. You'd be surprised how common that is in Manitoba too. Actually, here, okay. The best thing about going to a wedding, one time was like not a single white person in the room really knew how to line dance until the one black guy in the room came up and taught everybody. It's like, okay. So that happened.
Right. Yeah, no, we did get taught square dancing. Donna, Carlene, that's correct.
Well, okay, yeah, square dancing, line dancing, yeah, it depends on, yeah.
I don't know if it's considered the same thing, but we would have to do like, oh gosh, this is where you're gonna test my fourth grade knowledge now. You would
line dancing is more two-step than it is.
Your arms and swing around. You'd partner up with the boys and girls, and you'd get in four, and you'd spin around, or we'd do the one where everybody would be in a circle. What is it? Through the hay barrel or something? I don't know. We'd have to look up square dancing now because that's been years ago. And like I said, to this day, I've never been to a country bar or square dancing, so I haven't put the knowledge to use.
I think my husband and I, I think he tried to do some line dancing with me at one point, and yeah, he realized how bad I was when it came to two-stepping or even following directions. He's like, go sit down.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't have very much coordination at all, so dancing is not my thing.
No. No. So I mean, like, I do dance, but it's just making up my own moves.
Yeah, I can wiggle. I can gyrate. I can thrash my arms around, but that's about it. It's not going to be pretty. So.
All right. So I guess we should talk a little bit about cryptids and whatnot. And sadly, we didn't have a backup conversation for tonight. But oh, hold on. Dave has a question. Willow, bad at following directions, just doing her own thing. No, the F you say. Yeah. I tried. I was a I tried doing tap dancing as a kid too, and I loved it. But somehow I always seemed like I was the one kid in the class that, you know, seemed to. I thought I was moving along with the class, but everybody else was going, "What are you doing?"
Oh no. Hey, that's all the confidence in the world, though. As long as you move forward with that confidence.
Exactly.
Like no one is watching.
Or dance like everybody is watching. You don't. Right. Swing your partner, do a step inside while the rest of us find a cryptid. Thanks, Carl. But yeah, no. What? I wish we had a backup conversation for tonight, but sadly, no. You went to a couple conventions in the last little while, right?
Yeah. I went to PopCon Louisville, and Johnny and Crayley were there with me at that one. Went to the Oddities Con here in Indianapolis. Horror Hound was this weekend. I went down and walked around a little bit and saw some of the cosplayers and some of their costumes. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and then PopCon Indy is next weekend. And Johnny and I will be live Saturday doing Cryptid Crunch. So that'll be exciting.
Okay. Oh, Dave said, here's Gen Con.
I did not attend Gen Con, unfortunately. Didn't make it to that one. But I heard that it was super, super packed like it always is, and everybody had a great time.
One day I will make it down there. One day. Traveling for me right now is a little iffy. Although, you know what's funny? If I'm correct, my sister right now is on her way to El Salvador with her boyfriend.
Really?
Yeah, there's a conversation that I don't really bring up too much when it comes to being on air. My sister is an interesting person, let's just say. Yeah, so no, she started dating a guy from El Salvador. I guess it's been a couple of years. Mm-hmm. I haven't met him yet. So, for a while, it's like I kept asking my mom, I'm like, who is this guy? Like, does he even exist? Yeah. Like, she keeps talking about him. And she goes, oh, no, yeah, he exists. I'm like, I haven't met him yet.
Do you think it's like a 90-day fiance type of thing? Like, is he in it for the green card?
I don't know. That's what I'm wondering if, she's trying to, it's like a reverse green card.
Oh, goodness. Like does she live in Canada?
Yeah.
Like she wants to get out of Canada and go to El Salvador.
she has this whole trajectory where she wants to move to El Salvador and raise a family out there. And I'm just like, why?
Yeah. I mean, is it nice, the part that she's going to? Like, is it like a paradiso or like...
I don't know.
Are we talking like touristas type of deal? Like, we might lose a kidney tomorrow night.
I'm like flabbergasted with this whole situation because like I work with a couple people from South America. And like Cuba and all that, and I told them, yeah, my sister is dating a guy from El Salvador, and she wants to move there, and they're like, why?
Right.
So yeah, I'm just like,
tell her to send you pictures when she goes.
That's what I said. Like I sent her a message. And I'm like, hey, I hear you're taking a trip. Please send me pictures. She hasn't sent me anything back yet, so I'll give it a little bit before I start. My anxiety starts kicking in.
Yeah, that's for real scary. You never know what could happen.
Why you can lose a kidney in Winnipeg just as easily, right? Okay, Dave is also a Canadian.
Okay.
Here's a funny thing. So apparently a couple cities in Canada have been ranked for being the rudest cities in Canada.
Really?
Winnipeg made it to number 10 on the list for the rudest.
Oh my god.
At apparently a 6.24 on the average rudeness score. So Dave, get ready. Okay, so the number one city is Vaughan, Ontario. I apologize. My language skills are terrible. Coquitlam is number 2. Brampton, Ontario is number 3. Surrey, BC is number 4. Windsor, Ontario is number 5. Thunder Bay in Ontario is number 6. Regina, Saskatchewan is number 7. Edmonton is number 8 on that list. And Sudbury, BC is number 9. So I'm curious how, who did that list, because why do I feel like, if it was a totally different list of, the most murderers or the, the most sexist or most racist, I think Winnipeg would rank a little bit higher on that list. Rudest city in Canada is probably still nicer than the US.
Yeah, that's accurate.
We'll say sorry, but not mean it. That we have a bad habit of doing that, where it's like, I'm sorry, and not actually mean that we're sorry.
At least you have the decency to use your manners or fake your manners.
In Winnipeg, we'll apologize for shivving you.
Oh my god.
But yeah, no, it's funny. Like all these, like when they do these, like who's the rudest or who's the nicest, it always seems like it's like doesn't seem right. Mm-hmm. Like, who are you calling? Why are you calling people for these surveys? For one, because those phone calls do not, mean squat. And two, where are all these surveys being passed out to?
Right. Where's the sample group? I want to know who gave these data results.
Because if it's just one province answering these questions, then it's biased.
Right. It's like every time I watch, Family Feud, it's like, they ask 100 people, survey says, and the answers, I'm just like, who are the 100 people that they asked? And I'm just like, 48 of you said this? What? What were you thinking?
Like, I'm curious if they just asked their, audience before the show these questions.
Right, or they just, it's all of the writers and producers in the studio. They just hold a staff meeting and they're like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of apples? Is it red, green? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Okay, thanks, check, we got it. This is tonight's episode. Everybody back to work.
Yep.
I guarantee that's how it goes. And then they say, somebody go get Steve's soup for tonight.
Dave just says boomers.
What? The boomers are the answers we don't understand.
Now,
I will tell you, even I get on TikTok sometimes and I'm just like, what is happening? What is this next generation coming to? Like, there's this pickle kit that's being sold right now. Have you seen this, Willow?
No, a pickle kit.
Okay, so it's this sweet and sour spicy pickle kit that is being advertised all over TikTok. And I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I'm convinced it's just the most nonsensical thing they thought of to create and sell just to get sales, because nobody says like, oh, what is it? They're just like, oh, here's my link. Go get your pickle kit for 10% off, right? So everybody's doing these videos. It's a pickle wrapped in a fruit roll-up, and then there is sour spaghetti candy that they put like this sour salsa on, and then they stuff Takis, hot Taki chips, the hot Taki chips, inside the pickle, some of the spaghetti, and then chamoy, and tahini, and they eat all of that together. It cannot be good. It's sour gummy candy spaghetti. First of all, it's a pickle wrapped in a fruit roll-up. That's your first mistake.
I am willing to try pretty much anything, but that sounds like something that would bug my stomach for the rest of the night.
Can we please buy pickle kits and try them on Cryptic?
Oh my god. Okay, so Johnny hates it when I boast going to 7-Eleven and eating like the hot dogs or whatever from there. It's good food. Guys, I love 7-Eleven food.
Oh, good. Yeah, tornado roller? You buy a little 3 for 99 cents. Are you kidding me? You just on the way in the convenience stores of Speedway.
We actually just tried. We went to 7-Eleven earlier to see if we can grab a couple of hot dogs, but they weren't. Some of them were a little past its prime on the grill, and there were a couple of ones that weren't ready yet. So I'm just like, no, let's pass.
Right.
At least we have our standards, guys. But yeah, no. I love my chili dogs. We have some really good chili dogs here, and chili burgers. But yeah, that pickle kit thing. No, that sounds weird.
I'm just like, first of all, who thought of that? Who was like snacking one day and they're like, I'm going to wrap a fruit roll up around a pickle and then I'm going to stuff gummy candy spaghetti and, while I'm at it, I'm just going to put chamoy and like tahini. We'll just keep going. Add more stuff, man. What could go wrong?
Someone got a little too stoned from from their stash and just added whatever they had left over in their cupboards in their fridge.
I'm just imagining them wrapping the fruit roll up around the pickle and then biting it and be like, this is the best thing ever. And granted, I haven't tried it yet. I like pickles and I like fruit roll-ups, but I don't know about them together.
They're poor children, though. Like, coming home from school. What happened to my fruit roll-ups?
But yeah, every time I see them, I'm just like, I'm convinced somebody made this up just to see if, as a society, we would buy it and try it. And I'm like, it's working because I want to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like, the brainwashing has been complete. I need to purchase add pickle kit to cart. So
I mean that kind of those kind of videos do work, because it's like, okay, they tried it, let's try our own version of this, let's add something else to it, and it goes around. And yeah, no, you can't. I mean, okay, it's great for publicity if you're doing and folks, this is how Jackass starts.
Act now and we'll throw in a bag of chips. For the low price of $9.99.
Oh, wow.
Casper, don't judge me. But yeah, I was watching it and I'm just like, and she was like, oh, it's so good. And she's had a mouthful and she's like crunching and she's got this like sour spaghetti out of her mouth. She's like, oh, and it's like, I don't believe you. Every time I get on there, it's just something new. And I don't understand the people that go live as the AI robots. Have you seen those?
The AI robots?
Yeah, where they just like, they're like, thank you for the roses. Thank you for the roses. And they just like do the same thing over and over again. There's this one streamer, her name is Pinky Doll, and they did an interview with her on BuzzFeed, and they were like, she makes $7,000 every time she streams, and that's all she does. She gets gifts, and she repeats the same thing over and over again.
Okay, so my feed on TikTok is mostly drag queens and painters. I swear I have like a constant Bob Ross feed and drag queens. So yeah, it's either oil painters or drag queens on my feed, and the odd other makeup artists. But yeah, no, I haven't come across any of that.
Yeah, seriously, if you look up, I think her name is Pinky Doll. It's like literally Pinkie, and she's like, she makes $7,000 every stream just by doing that. I'm just like, what's the appeal? Like, I'd rather watch a streamer do like video games or like going on an adventure, or like, you know, doing a spooky ghost tour, or like doing something in their, like cooking in their kitchen, or like doing something or talking, you know? So I'm just like, I don't know. But people are like, oh, they're mesmerized because they can mimic trying to be a robot. And I'm like, that's scary. We don't want to be robots.
Carl says it, you know, de-evolution.
Right?
That's exactly how I feel about a lot of this. And yeah, sorry, Dan mentioned think of it as evolution in action, and Carl here says de-evolution.
Right.
I just, some of the stupidity, and it's been going downhill. Like, our entertainment has been going downhill for a long time. And Carl says, in 2 more generations, we will be picking fleas off each other again. Don't get people started, because I think they will make that a video. There is an ad now on YouTube where they say, do you want to eat your ready-to-eat survival foods because they look so good? Yeah, no. Dave, I can assure you my feet will not ever go on the internet, except on... Okay, so my husband makes a joke about that a lot, where it's like, he goes, you can always sell your feet online. It's like, no. I know everybody has a price, but no. I think the only time that I actually have put pictures of my feet online was when I sprained my ankle really bad.
Okay.
That's it. That's the only time that my feet have probably ever been online.
Right. You know, it's just a foot. I'll put my foot online all day if you're paying me for it. But like, I don't get the appeal with the foot, man. I hate feet. I hate my own feet. I'm like, I want to scrub all the skin off of them. Get clean this foot. One time when I worked in a call center, this is how naive I am. This guy called in and he was just asking questions about his policy, and then he was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go get a pedicure later. What color do you think I should do? And he was like, do you think I should do like pink or coral? And I was like, oh, like, you know, watermelon pink is really, really hot this season. And I'm just like answering his questions at first, and then he goes, yeah, I just love it when I get a pedicure because they massage your feet. He's like, when you get a pedicure, what's your favorite part of your foot that they rub? The ball of your foot? Or do you like it when they like massage the middle? And he starts just talking to me about my feet, which part I like rubbed. And I'm just like, okay, this is not where I thought this was going. Do you have any more questions about your policy, sir? So yeah, I'm just... oh, yeah, I think you should do watermelon pink. At first, I'm just, like, answering like a normal person, like, la, 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 talking about makeup.
Uh, I'm glad that we cleared that up, though. When you said Dave says when you said your feet it totally sounded like feet.
Oh, that's how we got the
Yep.
feet.
Yep. Because I cannot enunciate to save my life. Yep. So at least your husband thinks your feet are pretty enough to put online. Thanks, Carl. Yes. Yeah. My enunciation is terrible, and I get in trouble from my husband all the time about that. And I think we killed Kale. Come back. Yep. Okay. We lost Kale. Next topic. So, unfortunately, the author that we were supposed to be interviewing right now hasn't shown up, but hopefully he does. And she had to take a call about our feet. Dave says, I blame your microphone, and now you can use it to make hubby buy you a new gear. I technically do have another microphone I could be using. I'm waiting to set up my computer in my office. Trying to think. There hasn't really been. Oh. Hello, Frank.
Hey, kids.
Hey, how's it going?
Slowly.
Uh-oh.
Slowly. Am I early? Am I late? What did I do?
You're a little late, but it's okay. We can start the conversation with you. So Frank Bennett is the guy that we've been
that guy
meaning to interview. Kale's having a little technical difficulties right now, but
you mean cabbage is not a part of the conversation? Must be a salad issue.
She'll be with us in just a moment.
Somebody ought to teach broccoli over there how to run a computer. I'm kidding.
So what's happening with you? Anything new and exciting?
Always new, always exciting. I'm preparing to go to this coming week to Knoxville, Tennessee for CreepyCon. My first appearance there, my first show in Knoxville, Tennessee. So it's going to be a hoot. It's a big, scary thing with all kinds of big, scary people and celebrities, and I love doing shows like that.
Cool. Hey, so how did you get into the whole Aberdeen Wildman story?
Well, I didn't ask for it. As anybody who has had a paranormal experience, an actual one, a genuine experience will tell you, they didn't go around looking for it. It happens up upon you. And I have found that what we think of as paranormal beings or entities or whatever actually select and choose the situation. You can look for them morning, noon, and night, but if they want to actually appear to you and do anything for you, it's up to them. So there I was, this really young and good-looking kid, dumb as a brick, back in February of 1980. That's when I was young and pretty, not all old and broken down like you see me now. I mean, look, I can't even move my arm. But anyways, so it was February of 1980. That was the same week they invented fire. It was in all the newspapers. But anyways, it was February of 1980. It was the coldest month of the year. And it was so cold that, I was still in high school. And all the pipes in the school were freezing. So we had only been in school about 90 minutes. They loaded us right back on the buses and sent us home. And so there it is, 1980, coldest day of the year. You're a teenager. There in the daytime. What you going to do? And if anybody remembers anything about television back then, there were only 3 channels, 4 if the antenna was pointed the right way.
And you were the remote control.
There was no, I was the remote control. It depends. Now, I had 2 little brothers. If they were home, they were the remote control. There is a pecking order.
You were the one holding the bunny ears, right?
Yeah, right. It really does look like that on some days. It depends on what your parents want to watch. And well, let's face it. In 1980, you had very little to watch, especially in the daytime. Nothing but soap operas, nothing but game shows, and teenagers won't swallow that. So even though it was probably single digits outside, teenagers will decide to go out and play in the cold, which is what I did. Somebody loves being outside. And to this day, I hate wearing shoes. I hate wearing long pants. I just love to be barefoot and outside playing. Just me. And I decided, since everything's frozen, wouldn't it be fun to just get on one of the local rivers not far from my house and just walk on the ice all the way down to the Chesapeake Bay in Maryland? That's, it was pretty close to the Chesapeake Bay, maybe about 5 miles down the river. And so I got on the ice, walked down the river, and got a really long ways. And then there's a point where it opens up to the marshlands that surround the Chesapeake Bay. And the ice started to get thin and crack under me, and I actually fell through. But fortunately, I was very close to the shoreline of the marshes and only got wet kind of up to my belt line and scurried the shore. Somehow I still had my shoe on. I thought I lost that in the mud. But there I was, freezing frickin' cold. Oh, excuse me, colder. And there I am out in the marshes, miles from home. I might as well finish what I came out there to do. So I walked and followed the shoreline of the marshes about as far as I possibly could until I ran out of land. And even though I swear to you, maybe 5 degrees outside, it was a beautiful day. The sun was out shining, and the sun felt nice. And I'm standing there on the edge of the marshes, looking out over the Chesapeake Bay, and I just had this really weird feeling that something else was there. And if anybody has ever had this feeling, it's not like you're standing next to a living person and you can sense them. It's just like there's nobody there. I'm in the middle of the marshes by myself. Nobody for miles around, but I sense a presence. And it's very foreign to me. I don't know what to make of it. But I'm standing there watching across the bay, and I see this flock of geese going by in the foreground, and I realize I can see them, but I can't hear them. And at that time of the year, the tall marsh grass out there is usually about 6 feet high. During its peak season, it's about 10, 12 feet high, but it's about 6 feet high, maybe a little less. There was a little breeze, and I could see out of the corner of my eye the marsh grass moving, but I couldn't hear it. I couldn't hear the grass rustling. That was odd. And in the time it was taking for me to kind of computate all of these strange things, I had this feeling that something was behind me. So I turned around and looked, and about maybe 80 to 100 feet away was this island that I had walked past on the way to get down there. It was about the width of a football field and the length of 2 football fields with tall trees on it. Cedar trees, locust trees. And I looked down, and looking at me through the brush was this man. And at first, from that distance, I thought it was a black man. But you see, I grew up with black kids. I played football, wiffle ball with them all the time. I know what black people look like. That ain't it. And as I zoned in a little closer and could really make out the features, it honestly looked like if you had taken somebody and burnt the skin to a char, like charcoal. It had that consistency to it. And I can still remember to this day seeing sunlight reflecting off the top of the forehead of this. But the skin was charred black, very large round eyes with very small pupils. I couldn't make out the nose, but a very small mouth that was pursed. and it was looking at me like it was going to attack. Now, you got to remember that back then, it was not uncommon for somebody to go on a drug trip or have too much of something to drink and then go in the woods to sleep it off. That was more common than you know. And for a while there, that's what I thought I was looking at. And like I said, I'm still trying to process all these other feelings. I'm just a kid, okay? I'm only 17 years old. And I look good, don't get me wrong, but I was as dumb as a brick. And it stared at me for probably a solid minute. And I kind of got antsy as to what was going to happen. So I had a knife on me. I had a bayonet on my belt. And I took my hand and put it on the handle of the bayonet. And when I did so, the creature, this thing that looked like a man, launched into this enormous fit of rage. It went onto the island and proceeded to run all over that island, screaming and hollering like an ape. And I could see it throwing branches around and making all kinds of ruckus. And through the breaks of the thickets and the brushes, I could tell it had on a white button-down shirt, long sleeves, which was very clean, by the way, and blue pants, blue slacks. I couldn't make out the hands and feet. It was moving too fast.
Now, I took this image from your Facebook page. So.
Yeah, I had to put, I made that about a weekend or two ago because on some website called Wiki Images or whatever it is, somebody came up with a misinterpretation of my story and created something really wacky. So I kind of made that to kind of clear it up. It doesn't wear a dress. It was wearing slacks. And running around that island ate up about 45 seconds or so. And then it reappeared back in the exact same spot it was before and looked at me for about maybe 5 seconds or so. Now, up to that point, you could have had me convinced I was still looking at a man, a guy that was just really messed up by something. And then a very amazing thing happened. I watched it leap vertically 15 feet straight up. There's no creature in nature capable of a 15-foot vertical leap, especially humans. Yeah. And I'll tell you why I know the height in a few minutes. But it went up about 15 feet into the trees overhead, scurried up the branches. It was about 60, 70 feet up now. And it proceeds to go running through the branches of the trees that far up, screaming and hollering like an ape. And as fast as you see my finger moving is as fast as it's going through those small branches. There's only a tiny handful of creatures in nature capable of this. And again, humans are not on that list. And I'm standing there watching these cedar trees and locust trees pitching back and forth up there from the weight of this thing jumping around. So it had a physicality to it, obviously. It wasn't just my imagination. The trees are all moving from this thing. And eventually, I'm still standing there. I got the water behind me. I can't go anywhere. And I'm waiting for it to come down and come towards me and attack me. I still got my hand on the handle of the bayonet, and I haven't drawn it yet. And after about, 30 seconds or so, it starts disappearing in the tree line around the back of the island. And after a while, I don't hear it anymore. And after it disappears and it gets a little quiet, nature comes back. I can hear the birds again. And I can hear the tall marsh grass rustling in the wind. Oh, wow. And I don't have that feeling anymore that something is there. And after that, I could hear the dogs. There are farms that surround most of the Chesapeake Bay. I could hear the dogs going off one by one in succession in that direction, heading north, all along the farms that line the Chesapeake Bay on that side. And that was my encounter with the Aberdeen Wildman. And I thought it was over, but I was wrong. After it was quiet long enough and I thought it was gone, I started kind of making my way out of the marshes, and I very carefully got past that island. You see, the grass is almost about as high as I was, and you could hear it coming, but you can't see it coming. That's a problem. So I was hugging the coastline. And at that time of the year with everything frozen, it was easy to do that because the ground was frozen. You can't step into a hole or nothing. So I felt secure with that. I wasn't going to go back on the ice again. That was not sure footing. And I kept following the coastline until the marshlands gave way to the woods, and the little trees started getting taller and taller and bigger as I moved on into the woods out of the marshes. And I thought I was fine. But when I got into the woods, I heard this behind me. Shh, 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 shh. And it stopped. I turned around and looked. There's nothing there. I scanned everything. I scanned the tree line. No birds, no nothing. I didn't feel the presence. That's another thing that really confused me. I walk a little more, and I hear it again. And whatever that was followed me more than 2.5 miles out to the highway. And that was my encounter with the Aberdeen Wildman.
Oh. And that was the only time that you've had an encounter with it?
With that creature, yes.
Okay.
Now, leading up till then, I had encounters. In 1975, I witnessed Sasquatch with 3 other people. Back then, I was even younger and prettier, but still dumb as a brick. And I had also, in about a year or two prior to encountering the Aberdeen Wildman, I had encountered a dark entity at my house. And I'm going to tell you straight up, if you run into one, you don't need to run into a second one. It's something that burns a scar into your spirit or your soul. And I spent the remainder of the 1980s, it really shook me to the core when I saw this thing. And I spent the remainder of the 1980s looking over my shoulder, expecting to see it again.
Yeah.
And I had also encountered and had come across in the woods other strange creatures. You would call them cryptids, but they appear to be human, but they are not. And in the book, I also detail my encounter with a full-bodied apparition, but it came to me in the person of somebody that I knew who was still alive. I had only seen the girl a couple weeks before, but it clearly was an apparition. It was not a living thing. I also detail in the book my wife's encounter with a full-bodied apparition at her workplace up in New York.
Okay.
Yeah, and when I speak to groups, I really go out of my way to try to draw them away from this concept we have from all the ghost hunting shows of the house being haunted by the little girl ghost or the old man or it used to be an Indian reservation or God knows what, or a burial ground. I try to separate them from that because my own personal experiences and the characteristics about them, not just the dark entity, but also some of the characteristics about this Aberdeen Wildman. Like I said, I sensed its presence before I actually saw it. So it had a strong spiritual presence about it. And I stood there at the edge of the marshes watching the trees swinging back and forth from the weight of this thing. So it had a physical presence to it. And in the book, I'm reconciling these two things because when you talk about ghosts, you do not hear about them having physicality quite often or having the ability to affect things physically. But I saw it happen, and many others I've encountered have seen this happen.
Now, I'm sure Johnny and Cale both told you that I'm a bit of a skeptic, so I think a little differently than what most people you talk to.
Oh, I just put on my glasses. I didn't know you were pretty.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll take them off now.
When you had this encounter with the Wildman, any chance that there was maybe prior to this, is there an industry? Sorry, my brain's not working right now. Apparently, is your what kind of industry is the place that you grew up known for? Like any machine shops or chemical plants?
Get you. This takes place about a mile from something called the Aberdeen Proving Grounds. The Aberdeen Proving Grounds is our nation's oldest military ordnance testing facility. It dates back before World War I. And the state park that this takes place in is across the water from that. There's a small adjacent bay, and then you get out into the Chesapeake Bay. On the opposite side would be the grounds for the military installation. And it's interesting you bring that up because people wonder how I got the name. And it turns out that about a year later, oh, I'm sorry, I better wrap up something in a neat little bow here before I do. How did I know it took a leap 15 feet vertically into the trees above? Is because about I didn't tell anybody, by the way. People were judgmental enough. But I did trust a friend of mine enough to tell him. He was a bouncer at a local nightclub I would go to. His name was Mike. And we were both gym rats. We both liked to work out. And Mike wasn't afraid of anything. So with Mike, I took a trek back down there again. Not, the ice was gone. Everything had melted. So we hiked through the woods and through the marshes. And I had, we looked all over that big island, and there's no evidence of anything because the ground was frozen. There's, you're not going to get tracks on frozen ground. And I had Mike stand in the same places I saw this creature stand in. Mike is around about 6 foot, 6'1". And so that's how I know the size differential. And strangely enough, Mike brought one of the old, you ever see those old fold out construction rollers we used to use? Yeah, he brought one. It only went 12 feet, but we made a determination from there. And it was near about 15 feet to the lowest branch. That's how we know that. Takes place within a mile of the Aberdeen Proving Grounds. About a year after this takes place in February of 81, excuse me. I'm sitting in my house. It's Saturday night. Some friends of my parents from the next town up are visiting. They weren't getting along. They had been fighting the whole night. So by the time they got to our house, the wife is in the kitchen talking to my parents. The husband, who has been relegated to the doghouse, is sitting alone with me in the living room, and we're watching Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
So it tells you what hour of the night it was. And we got to talking, and, I didn't know what Tim did for a living. He took, first time I found out. And I took a chance of telling him what I ran into. And Tim straightens up. He looks back into the kitchen and says, "Honey, Frank saw the Wildman." And it turns out, see, he was a sergeant on the Aberdeen Proving Grounds at that time. And it turns out that this creature had been sighted on the Aberdeen Proving Grounds. And they're the ones that gave me the name.
Oh, interesting. Because I'm just looking at the picture that you drew, and it does kind of look like it possibly could be a burn victim. Maybe like possibly someone who, really didn't want to be bothered.
Well, it's a puzzling image. It's a puzzling image.
Yeah,
I'll grant you. But I want to point out that there are things about it that didn't strike me odd until after the fact. For example, it was clean. I had to hike, down the ice, and then I had to hike through the marshes and the woods and all that. And they're not really what you consider clean places. This thing was clean. The pants were clean. The shirt was white.
Yeah.
Not dirt, soiled at all. It's not something you kind of thought of. And so, yeah, he was really kind of clean for being out in the woods like that, wasn't he? And then how did he get onto that island? I had to hike about a mile through the marshes to get to that island. How did he get out there? And we found no evidence of anybody living out there. From time to time, hunters will make a campfire out there because there's deer to be hunted and stuff, and you see duck blinds and deer press downs and all, but otherwise there's no evidence of civilization out that way or how somebody could be so well kept. But I swear
there's no like hunting cabins or anything like that set up.
No, out in the marshlands, no. No. And the charred skin, you gotta understand, when you first see it, the first thing you hone in on the eyes. And in the book, I'm looking at the characteristics of everything I encountered, but also the characteristics of apparitions and encounters with like the Sasquatch and whatever that other people have encountered. And I'm comparing all the characteristics together because I'm trying to, thank God for YouTube. I picked up a lot of good information off of YouTube, but I kind of noticed that probably 80-90% of all encounters with cryptids and paranormal entities involves a gaze. In other words, the locking of the glances in the eyes. Mm-hmm. And this put me in mind of something which is called mesmerization. It's actually used in magic, where you can actually hypnotize someone. And if you have the ability to lock eyes with somebody, and if you can actually mesmerize them, you can convince them of anything they're seeing.
Yeah.
That is a chapter in the book.
Okay. Now, I have a hard time with the belief that Bigfoot exists, and mainly it's the whole nobody's actually really had a good, clear image of him or them. What is your experience with Bigfoot?
It was summer of 1975. Like I said, I was still a really cute-looking kid and dumb as a brick. And it was after dinner. It was going to be getting dark soon. And we heard the dogs out in the woods and in the farms going crazy. It's not uncommon to hear the dogs going off. That happens all the time. But when you hear all the dogs everywhere going off excitedly, all at the same time, I'm talking about northeast, west, south, then you know something's up. And we all came out of the house. And when we came out, you could see, as far as you could see houses, everybody else is out on their porches or in their yards going, what the hell? And we started to hear the dogs were more excited in the back of our property than up front. So we all, I'm talking about my dad and one of my little brothers, went to the back of the property, and we met the other neighbor south of us, and we're all standing there at the edge of our property. My dad, my little brother, me, and our neighbor. We're all standing there looking out over where the trees end and to this this pasture where there's a lot of cows and a lot of cattle and stuff. And we saw this, and like I said, it's starting to get dark. The light is getting poor. We saw this enormous humanoid figure come out of the woods, stomping along the creek bed, because there was a creek that meandered through that pasture. And you could tell the size of the creature because the cattle around it were scattering. It was of a size that if it wanted to, it could swing its leg over and sit on the back of a cow, no problems. It was of that size. That much we know. You couldn't make out any details about it because the light was so bad, but it was definitely of a humanoid form. That much, you know. And wherever we know, we've all been out there. We all know where that creek goes. It meanders underneath a little bridge into a neighbor's farm under the I-95 highway, and a whole bunch of farms out that way. And you could hear, just like my encounter with the Aberdeen Wildman after the fact, the dogs going off on the individual farms and properties one by one by one by one, where we know that creek meanders.
Carl Witzman has a interesting question. Is there a history of other people seeing the wild man? Is there still, are people still seeing the wild man?
Not still. And at the time, I was hard pressed to find anybody other than Tim, who was a sergeant at the base, about that. But since I started touring and promoting the book, Encounter with the Aberdeen Wildman, believe it or not, out on the West Coast, I've been presented with people who have come up to my table who had actually worked at the Aberdeen Proving Grounds or had lived in the Susquehanna Valley, who knew of the Aberdeen Wildman. To date, I haven't really come across anybody out east who knows about it other than the personnel at the Aberdeen Proving Grounds. But it's strange to be doing a show out in San Francisco like I did last year, and have somebody come up to you going, "Yeah, I was at the Aberdeen Proving Grounds for a couple years, and yeah, we remember this." Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
Now, by the way, the Aberdeen Proving Grounds has other stories about encounters with what they thought were alien UFO beings. And it's silly stuff, like they're rummaging through their garbage and stuff.
Yeah.
One would think if you're an advanced society that can come billions of light years to visit us, aside from anal probing, wouldn't you bring your lunch? I just think things like that. Oh, we've come billions of miles just to rummage through your garbage, you know. But those are stories. Those are stories that actually exist about that, you know.
According to some people, aliens are here to eat us. So,
yeah, I could recommend a better diet than that. Some folks are just plain fattening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
but I'm sorry.
You've worked with you worked with the people from the Ghost Hunters. What is your experience with them?
Well, I've never worked with them. I've appeared at a lot of events with them.
Yeah.
And they do not like me.
No.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I've got a lot of friends in this business. A lot of people you've seen on these shows are friends of mine, and they're very level-headed, scientifically minded people who are just looking for answers and don't have egos. The ones that have egos do not like me because I am in a kind of I'm kind of a cog in the wheel here, a little stick in the wheel here. And I kind of upend their theories about the fact that a ghost is made up of electromagnetic energy. That's not substantiated by any science.
That's actually the best description of ghosts that I've heard in a while.
It's the only one you get because we don't have a science for this. We don't have a science that can capture, identify, and codify and examine a spirit or spirit energy. It's an X factor. However, I've noticed, by the way, another book I'm working on called The Spirit Field deals with this extensively because I love science. God created science. It would be a shame not to use it. And I'm trying scientifically to explain how a spirit can not only manifest like I had seen, but manifest, affect you on a spiritual level as it did me. Like I said, I sensed the Wildman before I even saw it. Affect you on a spiritual level first, and then have this display this physicality. And in the book, I'm going to be trying to use all of our available sciences to hopefully explain and reconcile it all.
Okay.
Now, the people in our business, I'm going to throw out a couple names. You know, Heather Taddy, who lives nearby here. She's one. She was on a lot of TV shows. Dave Spinks, that owns Willow Sweep down in West Virginia. He's another one. Very scientifically minded people who think like I do, that there's a rationale to this. And we may not have a science as of yet that can do that.
Sorry. No, that's really cool. Like, I love the ghosts. I love hearing about people's experiences with ghosts, and I've never really been able to explain my own experiences with ghosts, but having it being like and how you explain it is actually quite interesting.
I'm a Bible teacher. I will not hide that from anybody. And I'm going to tell you straight up, since I got saved in the 90s and decided to become a Bible teacher, I've had nothing but doors slam in my face, and I've lost more friends than I can make. But I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't have it any other way. And this is another reason why so many people with the egos in the paranormal industry really do not like me, because I'm not just explaining how the paranormal works from a scientific basis, I'm using a scriptural basis because folks have no idea how much of paranormal exists in scripture until you really read between the lines, and how I can take simple scriptures and put it in plain language, present it to them, and they will think it's a modern day haunting. But no, it's something that happened thousands of years ago.
Yeah. Aubrey's in the chat, one of our co-hosts for the back of the cereal box. She has a question here. Has anyone suggested ghosts might be existing in a negative energy field?
That would be a vacuum. And the only negative energy field is space. Now, like I said, once again, we're talking about an X factor. In order for it to occupy our space and for you and me to even see it, a whole series of complex physical and physiological processes have to take place just for you to see a ghost, just for you to see a spirit. In order for me to see you, between my eyeball and the base of my brain, thousands upon thousands of complex sequences have to take place just for me to see you. Now, if we subscribe to the age-old theory that it's only in your head, why can't I see it? To be able to see is different from the imagination. The imagination takes place up here. Seeing takes place here. So if a ghost doesn't actually exist, why am I able to see it? Why am I able to hear it? Why am I able to remember each and every detail of it as if it had just happened yesterday?
Yeah.
And that's how I think. You tell me, when I watch people describe their hauntings, I'm looking at it mechanically. I'm looking at the mechanics of the haunting. The little girl ghost and the little boy ghost and the old man ghost. And these things are apparitions for effect. In other words, I believe that they are created images. They craft themselves to appear a certain way as to have a certain effect on the beholder. This is how I explain the Sasquatch. I do not believe to this day Sasquatch is a living thing. It cannot be.
Yeah. I just feel like when it comes to a lot of people's hauntings, that if it's like, and it seems like it's a common theme where it's they see them happening at night more so than during the day, which I can understand why. It's just the imagination filling in the gap and making them see what they want to see because they've already had that, the image of the ghost already put into their heads prior to going into that space.
Yeah. Now, regarding that, thank you. Great question. It's almost like we discussed this in advance and you're reading off a cheat sheet. I'm kidding. Anyway, whenever I speak to groups, I implore everybody, if you're going to get into ghost hunting, before you do that, before you whip out the EMF meters, before you whip out all the equipment, before you whip out the Ouija board, do one thing for me. Take 1 year of basic psychology, because in that you'll understand just how many ways the human mind can be manipulated and toyed with.
Yeah.
And you have to understand these things have been around before time. They know every button to push. They know every trick to pull. And they know you. They have an understanding of you and your spirit more than you do. So if you got a button to push, they know how to push it.
Yeah. And it's funny, like I tried working at a hotel, and it was known as one of the most haunted hotels in my city. And I've cleaned the room that was supposedly haunted, and like people were afraid to go in it. And I'm just like, I went into it a couple times. I'm like, there's nothing here. There's nothing, absolutely nothing here, because the energy, like, I didn't feel any of the energy that they supposedly said existed in the room. And I'm just like, yeah, this ghost story is completely false. Made for the hotel to sell, the room.
Two things about that. Thank you for bringing that up. Um, Point number one is the fact that everybody, you got to understand, if there's anything I could change in my original book, Encounter with the Aberdeen Wildman, A True Story, if I can go back and change anything, it would be the story, my analysis of psychics and mediums. Because at the time I wrote the book, I didn't actually know any. I just observed about 1,000 case studies and watched how they do things, watched the results and interviews with people who have worked with them. And that's how I derived my conclusions. Since I've started touring years ago and doing this, I have got a lot of friends who are psychics and mediums. And I have come to understand that people come into this world with different degrees of sensitivity spiritually. There are some people who you would consider them dense spiritually. They're not very receptive to what you would call spirit energy or psychic energy. Other people are so sensitive, they don't know the difference between night and day. I've met people like that.
Yeah.
And so many people in your position who wants to experience something so badly, but it just doesn't happen for them. And it's probably because you're expecting it to happen a certain way. And allow me a moment to make you feel uncomfortable. Because another point I want to get across to people when I speak to them, especially paranormal investigators that claim have been doing this for years and didn't get any evidence, didn't actually, the full-bodied apparition thing, it's the holy grail of ghost hunting. I have encountered a full-bodied apparition. It came to me as somebody I knew. My wife encountered a full-body apparition at her workplace some years ago in New York. It came to her and appeared to her in her workplace as somebody you would commonly bump into at any time. It was only the circumstances shortly after that made you realize that was not a person. And what I try to get across to everybody is that they have the ability, if they want to, if they can, appear as real as you and I, with sweat, bad breath, odors, you name it. They can appear as real as you and I. And this reminds me also, and I must balance this because I am a Bible teacher. In the book of Hebrews, it does say that you should be kind to those you encounter, for many of you have entertained angels unawares. So if an angel from heaven can appear in such a way that you would mistake it for anybody off the streets, why can't a spirit entity do the same thing? Many of you have had a conversation with a spirit or an entity and don't even realize that it happened.
Good point.
Thank you. It's in the book. No,
Aubrey has a question. What's your opinion on ghosts and parallel timelines?
I'm not a subscriber to parallel timelines. I've got a lot of friends who love physics, and you got to. I see science as a tool in your tool belt. It's something you whip out and use when you need to. 100 years ago, Albert Einstein first put out the idea of time and time travel and stuff like that. To this day, it's only existed on paper, and alternative methods of time travel, timelines, dimensions has never been physically conclusively proven. So I tend to follow the science. It says it's a theory and it remains such. But I'd like to ask the author that question, in what manner would it apply to the spirit? And how I'm trying to imagine how the spirit could use the parallel timeline to, appear in a haunted house or appear in your bedroom and, stuff like that and scare the living bejesus out of you. That's an interesting thing to ponder, because if you're looking to use time, that means you have a method of manipulating it. And that raises the question, how would you do that?
Some people believe that there is an overlap of our timelines and the timeline before ours. Sometimes they can overlap into ours, our world, or we're overlapping on theirs. But yeah, that confuses me too, because I'm just like, how like, because somehow we're seeing their image crossing over onto our timeline. But that is like a weird. Yeah, I'm not. I don't subscribe to that belief either, because then I have so many other questions.
If
on
you
how
let,
that works.
time and time again, this has been applied to the Sasquatch over and over again, and it's frustrating. You're talking to a man that pissed off an entire convention full of cryptozoologists simply by throwing up a picture. I put up a picture in my my live presentations have a movable DVD background where I throw up images and stuff like that, so I can make my presentation. And on one side, I had the picture of a Sasquatch footprint, and on the other side, a picture of a man's footprint or a boot print. And I would tell the audience, what you're looking at is the only physical evidence existing that Sasquatch ever existed at all.
Yep.
That's how you make a cryptozoologist lose their mind.
I've been there. I've done that. I actually kind of banned myself from a bunch of Sasquatch pages, because yesterday came across one post of someone saying, "Hey, look, Sasquatch is real," and I did a reverse lookup of the picture, and I came across the website where the outfit came from.
Exactly.
I'm like, and I posted that up. I'm just like, yeah, nice costume, dude. And I got a couple people angry at me, and another person is like, how did you do the reverse lookup? And it's like, do you not know how to Google?
Mm-hmm. There is also something called common sense. Any of us who went to school, whether it be public, private, we were all taught zoology. We were all taught biology. In order for a living thing to exist in this world, it has to have something called a habitat. You and I have a habitat because we work, sleep, eat, breathe, dwell.
Yep.
We defecate, all kinds of cool shit. This is stuff that people can visit, examine, even long after the fact, and examine. Okay. When you research the Sasquatch, going back a couple thousand years with the Native American Indian tribes, Sasquatch has absolutely nothing of a habitat. Nothing. There's no identifiable determinate food source, dwelling point, geographical region that it must dwell in. Nothing. And especially no remains. Everything leaves remains.
Yeah.
All things. As a matter of fact, there's archaeologists out there dusting off the remains of things that lived 1 million years ago. Everything leaves remains.
Yeah.
So the only logical conclusion left is that it never physically existed at all.
And it's been proven time and time again that the original footage claiming that Bigfoot was real, that people keep referring to, is a hoax. It's a guy in a suit.
Which I've heard time and time again. And it's I'm just amazed of how many resources they pour into this. And there seems to be this, just like in the paranormal field, even though it's blatantly obvious you're never going to get this evidence, they seem to be, for the sake of the entertainment industry that needs to perpetuate this and make money, putting the brakes on it right up to this point where it's conclusive. And they go back into more investigations, new people out there doing investigations. It's just an endless, vicious little cycle. There's supposed to be an end to this. Forensics has a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's how law enforcement works. Even though there have been many forensic examinations of the Sasquatch, they will not permit it to be the conclusion.
Yeah,
because it's entertainment.
I laugh at the shows because they're walking through like animal dens, and they're like, oh, this is a Sasquatch den, and it's just like, you guys know that deer make their dens that way.
Well, one thing more, and I covered this in the book at the time when I was putting writing what I would consider the final segments of my book, you have to understand when you write, there's a lot of editing going on. And while you don't want your book to be War and Peace, you also want it to be readable. So you start out with 500 pages and you're cutting and you're editing out things. But then something else comes along and you go, oh, that's got to be in the book. I mean, that lines right up. I was living in Maine when I was finishing up the book. And on the news, these stories were starting to come down off the Appalachian Trail, which terminates up in Maine, that people were being attacked on the Appalachian Trail at that time by wildmen in the woods. And we're talking about people partially dressed, maybe wearing a moss back, tattered clothing, whatever. But wild people do inhabit the wilderness of our country. And many of them are responsible for what they think are Sasquatch dwellings and evidence that they're coming across on these investigations. A human being walking through the woods barefoot won't really leave many tracks.
Yeah.
A 170-pound man walking barefoot through the woods will not, unless he's walking through sand or mud or something, will not leave much in the way of tracks.
Unless it's rained and the mud is...
Right, exactly. So when I see these programs and how they're kind of losing their minds about, oh, Sasquatch slept here. Well, so did George Washington. Is that probably, I don't know, he fathered a nation. Anyway, but, some dude who, considering how remote it is, that tells me it's somebody who wanted to get as far away from civilization as possible.
Yeah.
And I do a presentation, I do a segment in my presentation, It's All Paranormal to me, where I talk about missing people. And according to the FBI, more than 1,500 people well, it's actually 1,600 now. 1,600 people go missing in this country each and every day. Some are found, most are not. Some of them are victims of a crime. Most of them just lose their minds, walk away from society, disappear in the wilderness, and are never seen again.
Yep.
And I believe many of these are responsible for some of this evidence they're finding out in the woods that they're attributing to Sasquatch.
Yeah, I think I came across one person on TikTok that actually describes how dangerous it is to live out in the Appalachian Trail because it's so haunted and that there's creatures everywhere. And but a lot of what they're hearing is the wildlife coming to life at night. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know.
You can go on to YouTube like I did years ago. I mean, many years ago, this was on YouTube. But folks were capturing trail cam images of people just wandering through the woods in the middle of the night, miles and miles and miles from anyone, just out there by themselves wandering around.
Yeah. Some
deranged, some well-dressed, by the way. But this is a real thing. And, I don't really know if it was real or not, but we used to like a show called Mountain Monsters. For a disclosure, I've met those guys. I've done a lot of shows with them, and I love each and every one of them. They're so funny. But they had an episode where the lead investigator named Trapper was actually attacked in the woods by some wild man living out there in the woods. I don't know if it was real or not, but it was an episode of that program. And it put me in mind about my Wildman. But again, it's totally plausible. A guy like that could have lost his mind, ended up living out there in the marshes. It's possible. Problem is that I saw way too many things about it that just didn't compute. The very clean clothing, the great, agility and physical strength, and the overwhelming presence of it that I sensed even before I saw it. I mean, those things don't compute with a living thing, especially people, deranged or not. You don't develop superpowers if you go crazy. If that were true, I'll have some.
Carl Woodspin says weird people in the woods are more dangerous than anything out there, except maybe bears.
I don't discount that. I do not discount that. You know, the reason why I'm wearing a bayonet on that day is because I've had other encounters in the woods with dudes that, what, you know, I'm not talking about people deranged. I'm talking about just assholes. Sorry if you have a young audience, but just these jerks that love to find people and really mess them up.
Yeah.
And, you know, you spend enough time in the woods, you wear some kind of weapon. It's sensible. It's smart. We didn't have bear spray back in the 70s and 80s. I'd love that. Would have loved to have had that back then.
Yeah, where you come from sounds like a place that you aren't too trusting of people.
It's it was about 12 miles north of the city of Baltimore. Baltimore County, Maryland is gorgeous, just plain gorgeous. It's horse country, and I worked on horse farms. My first job was 8 years old, shoveling crap in a horse stable, but it was a job, and you know, good country, beautiful. But the paranormal is everywhere, and in ways that you never would have imagined you would find it. It's a very subtle thing, because first it tries to contact your spirit, which is what happened to me. That's why it was so bizarre for me, because no, you know, you're a kid, you're not used to things trying to communicate with your spirit. It's foreign to you. Your own spirit is foreign to you. So you don't know what that feeling is.
And have you come across any other unexplainable stories or any unexplainable things during your time?
I've seen 5 UFOs in my lifetime. That's a
wow.
That's a bit much for one guy. One would have been fine. No probing. And I like girls, and just very innocuous lights in the sky, and one that I describe in the book in Booth Bay Harbor, Maine, that was essentially slow drifting, maybe 15, 20 feet, you know, over top of me in the sky.
Oh wow!
Just an odd circumstance. My wife was standing right there watching it. It just rose up. It was a ball of light, a very faint one, but a ball of light. I thought it was a basketball. Rose up out of the middle of Booth Bay Harbor, Maine. You can find that on the map. Rose up about maybe 15, 20 feet, and just slowly made this. We're both standing on a big dock, and there's a fisher's building there where they sell tackle and stuff. And it's moving very progressively like this in the sky, and I'm watching it. It seems to be giving off sparks, which is odd, but I could hear fizzing, a sound of something fizzing.
Oh.
And then it just winked out. It was gone. It just vanished.
Huh.
15, 20 feet from me.
Interesting.
And then, you know, the other lights in the sky that you can't identify.
Yeah.
But you know, now this is what matters to you, is that, and this is you personally. It is a given fact in life that there are some people in life that strange crap just happens to them. You may know some people like this, but they just have this kind of luck where strange and bizarre crap just seems to happen to them all the time.
Yeah.
It's like these really ugly looking guys that somehow get all these good looking girls and you don't understand how they're doing it. And I'm just one of those people whose strange stuff would come upon. You know, I've got acquaintances who are hunters, and they've been in the woods 40 years and never saw a blessed thing. An idiot like me will probably see Bigfoot taking out the garbage. It just strange things happen to certain people, and that's just what it is. The people who need to see the most to believe will be kept from seeing it. That much I do know. You know, the spirits are not monkeys. They will not dance around and perform for you.
No. Like I've had my own like strange experiences. Like, and I know that seeing my grandfather like after he died, that can be misconstrued as, that can be, someone can just tell me that it was just, me in the state of pain and grief, wanting for him to be alive.
Mhm.
But just the fact that, I saw him just for that brief moment, kind of gave me hope that, hey, he's there. He wanted to say that was his way of saying goodbye, because we didn't have a chance to say goodbye to him. But no, and then there was a moment, I think it was like a couple months prior to my grandmother dying, where I had a nightmare where she came into my room with, clutching her chest. And, I woke up and, I had that, that moment where I couldn't move, I couldn't scream, and
Were you awake?
I swear I was awake, but I was in the middle of, dreaming. And
This is called sleep paralysis, and I had that too.
And I've had that a couple times throughout my life, where I'll wake up and I can't move, I can't scream, but I see something.
Mm-hmm.
And
why do you think that happened?
I'm not sure. I feel like when it came to my grandma, that maybe that was her way of telling me that she's on her way of
Yes, but
passing.
you see, while that was happening, you were terrified.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure, like what happened to me, there's a part of you that felt like you might actually start choking or losing your breath because you couldn't move anything else.
I was trying very hard to figure out a way to get myself to move so that I can help my grandma.
Yeah. Now, loved ones don't invoke terror.
No.
No, they don't. The apparition with your grandfather, that was peaceful.
Like the story with my grandfather, when I moved, when I lived with my grandparents, we would play a game trying to see who can wake up. Whoever got up first had control of the TV for that morning.
Oh, that was a fight.
So I'd wake up and try to beat my grandfather into the living room, but for some reason he'd always be, the first one up. Mm-hmm. But I mean, he was a military man.
Okay, here's a little inside tip. Old people don't sleep.
That's so true.
No, he was sitting there watching the sun come up, going, "I'll bet she's going to try to get that TV first. You watch. You just watch, man. I better I'm going to get my clothes on now."
But yeah, apparently, according to my sister, though, he woke us up. He woke her up to let her know that we were late for school one day. And I'm just like, oh, that's interesting. And then I told her the story of seeing him running from his bedroom to the living room.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I wouldn't trust each of those apparitions. I really wouldn't. But an apparition should not cause you distress. And I'm asked often, about loved ones appearing to them after they've passed. I asked them the circumstances about it. And a lot of them talk about it gave them closure. It gave them peace. And it was kind of like I had my chance to say goodbye. That kind of told me it was angelic, which means it was not your, if that was the case, it was not your grandfather, it was the image of your grandfather, because scripture is clear. When you're absent from the body, you're with the Lord, plain and simple. Lingering is a different matter altogether. That's a totally different kind of spirit physics. But the Lord will send an angelic to some people who need that kind of closure. And it will sometimes appear in the image of the person they lost. And they don't need to speak. They don't need to communicate. Just like when I ran encountered the dark entity, there was no speaking. It was just looking at me, and it was nothing but it was just nothing but a black image. And I couldn't just see the black image. I could see into it. It was like a hole in our reality that you can look into. It was another room, and I could see depth into it. But here's the funny thing. I knew it was there for me, and I knew a judgment was coming. Didn't say a word, no sounds. I just knew that looking at it. It's that kind of transmission.
Yeah.
Within a year of seeing that dark entity, I encountered the Aberdeen Wildman, and literally, I'm not kidding, within about a little over a year, lost everything I had. Everything.
Wow. Wow.
So when you see a spirit, be very careful with them. The first thing they'll attempt to do is lock a gaze with you. If you're looking at a spirit and it's staring at you, you don't have to look directly at it. I would look at its chest or its neck, because that locking the eyes is usually a mesmerizing transfer of information. And I'm quoting not just from my experience, but the experience I've read with many, many other people who couldn't remember certain events after encountering a spirit, is that there's a hypnotic quality about them. And they're communicating through your eyes directly to your spirit, to your soul. And they're essentially programming you.
Interesting.
And I'm only saying that from my own experience.
Yeah.
The full-bodied apparition my wife encountered was totally different. That spirit apparition did not attempt to lock eyes with her. Just gave her a quick glance and went back to looking at what it was looking at. It didn't pay much attention to her. But it did acknowledge her, which means she had interaction with a full-bodied apparition, but it was not interested in communication. Just being seen.
Wow.
And this is, like I said, in the book, I'm examining the characteristics. The Aberdeen Wildman focused a gaze on me. I mean, I locked in on those eyes. That was the first thing you see. And that went a solid 45 seconds, maybe almost a full minute. Right there. So there's the characteristic it had in common with a dark entity. Its characteristic it had also with the other full-bodied apparition I encountered, the locking of the gaze.
Yeah.
And like I said, I try to teach people about looking for this. There are people who have seen multiple spirits. And I fortunately, I get to talk to them and ask, details about it. And no, I just really see them moving through the hallway. They don't try to interact with me. They just want to be seen. And there are other ones that, they'll go through a door and it's just standing there staring at them, trying to burn a hole through them. That's those characteristics I pay attention to.
Yeah. This has been a very fascinating conversation. Thank you very much, Frank, for joining us tonight. Sadly, Kale's internet did not come back on to join us. But you're welcome to join us anytime that you're free.
I thought I was going to get some back of the cereal box questions. I listened to pieces of a couple of your programs to prepare for this, and you guys were talking about cereal and talking about toys and talking about a whole bunch of other stuff. And that's why I wore the Speed Racer shirt.
Oh,
I thought I'd be like hip and like, hey, I can do this.
Well, hey, if you're free next Saturday, you can join us on our show.
Yeah, we'll talk. No, next Saturday I will be in Knoxville, Tennessee for CreepyCon. I do my panel at that show. It's going to be Saturday at 6:00. So if anybody in the area of Knoxville can come out to the show, love to meet you.
Oh, that's wonderful. If I was down in where you were, I would definitely
right now.
If you ever make your way up to Canada, make sure that you come down come to the middle of Canada, Manitoba, where I'm at.
Are they still in business? I didn't know that. Yeah, I remember Canada. Yeah, I've been to Toronto a number of times.
Well, I'll try to get you to come up to Manitoba
for my wife to see Mamma Mia.
Oh,
That's a nice theater.
ah.
The food was the same.
Well, the encounter with the Aberdeen Wildman, true story by Frank J Bennett. Thank you so very much, Frank. Where can people find you on social media?
Oh Lord, it's so painful, isn't it? Anyway, live podcasting. But just type my full name into Google, Frank J Bennett, and everything about me is going to come up. Everything you're going to need to know and all the links. That's about the easiest way to find me. I am all over the place. But listen, it's really, I got to stress this. It's really important that you put that J in the middle, because if you leave it out, you're going to get a creepy lounge singer over here in Las Vegas. It's true. It's true.
Definitely, we'll make sure that I will correct myself if that ever happens. I think I actually had to correct the the podcast just before going on, just to make sure that I got the title properly. But Frank, again, thank you so very much for joining us. I apologize, Kale couldn't join us.
Yeah, well, you tell Cauliflower next time. Up her game, man.
Definitely. We'll have to bring you back. This conversation is it definitely needs a part 2.
Okay, it might be tapped in, but okay.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. The Cryptic Crunch podcast tonight. We'll see you soon.
Good night.